Do you know what true love really means?
Not the kind written in fairy tales or whispered in late-night texts, but the kind that stays when your face is unrecognizable, when your body is burned beyond repair, and when every reason to walk away is right there in front of you. This is a real story from Australia. The story of a woman who lost everything in a matter of seconds, her beauty, her dreams, her body, and the man who refused to leave her side. This is the story of Turia Pitt, a story that proves that true love never dies, even after the flames. Before the fire, Turia Pitt was unstoppable. She was the kind of girl who made people believe in passion again. A mining engineer, an athlete, a model, and someone whose laughter filled every room. She had everything: a dream job in the Australian outback, a smile that could silence storms, and a boyfriend named Michael Hoskin. He wasn't flashy, not rich, not a man of many words, but he loved her deeply, quietly, like a man who'd found his forever. They had been together since college, two souls running through life, literally, because Turia loved marathons. Her weekends were spent on trails, chasing sunsets across the desert. She said once, "When I run, I feel free. Like the world can't catch me." But one day, the world did. September 2nd, 2011, the day the desert turned into hell. Turia signed up for the 100-kilometre ultramarathon across Western Australia's remote Kimberley region. It was supposed to be just another challenge: sweat, dust, and victory at the finish line. But nature had other plans. Midway through the race, the wind shifted. A wall of fire began crawling through the scrubland. Dry grass, high winds, and heat created the perfect storm. Within minutes, the runners were surrounded. There was nowhere to run. Turia saw flames dancing toward her, orange, alive, roaring like beasts. She tried to find a way out, but the fire was faster. She pressed her back to a rock, gasping, praying, her skin burning. She remembers the sound, not of fire, but of her own heartbeat pounding against her chest as the flames swallowed her whole. In those few seconds, 65% of her body was burned. Her fingers melted together, her face gone, her life paused between death and survival. The helicopter took hours to arrive. By the time rescue reached her, she was barely breathing. No one thought she'd live through the flight. Doctors placed her in a medically induced coma. They amputated 4 fingers. They performed over 200 surgeries, skin grafts, reconstructions, and endless pain. Her mother fainted when she saw her daughter for the first time. Even the nurses struggled to recognize her. But one man never moved. Michael sat by her bed, silent, every single day. When people told him to move on, he said nothing. When someone said, "She'll never look the same," he whispered, "I didn't fall in love with her face. I fell in love with her soul." When Turia finally woke up after a long coma, her first question wasn't, "Why me?" It was, "Where's Michael?" He was right there, holding her hand, or what was left of it. He looked into her eyes and said, "You're still the most beautiful woman I know." But inside, Turia was breaking. She couldn't walk. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't even scratch an itch. The mirror became her enemy. She once said in an interview, "I saw my reflection and didn't recognize the person staring back. I thought, who could ever love this?" But every time doubt tried to drown her, Michael's voice pulled her back. He'd tell her stories about their trips, their plans, their silly fights. He didn't treat her like a patient. He treated her like Turia. And one day, he did something that melted the whole world's heart. Years into recovery, when Turia could finally walk again, even if only for a few steps, Michael walked in one morning, holding a small ring in his hand. It was the same ring he had bought before the fire, back when she was still the girl who ran marathons and smiled under the sun. He never returned it. He kept it safe, waiting for her to heal. And that day, he knelt beside her hospital bed and whispered, "I bought this ring 4 years ago because I knew even then that you were the one." Turia broke down in tears. The woman who had lost everything realized she still had the one thing that mattered, love that didn't burn away. Recovery was a battlefield. Turia spent years in surgeries, therapy, and painful rehabilitation. She had to relearn how to walk, how to smile, how to be seen again. But she never let pity define her. Instead, she turned her pain into power. She started giving motivational talks, sharing her story, showing her scars without shame. She once said to an audience, "They told me I'd never run again, so I ran. They told me I'd never smile again, so I smiled. They told me my life was over, and I told them, it's just beginning." Michael was always beside her, not as a caretaker, but as a partner. They built a life together, step by painful step. In 2016, 5 years after the accident, Turia did the impossible. She ran again, not for competition, not for fame, but to prove that fire couldn't define her story. She completed an Ironman triathlon, swimming, cycling, and running, a race that even the healthiest athletes fear. And when she crossed that finish line, Michael was waiting. He didn't cheer or shout. He just opened his arms, because some victories don't need applause, they just need someone who understands the journey. Years later, Turia shared a story about the first time she looked in the mirror after healing. She said she stood there, in silence, for a long time, seeing scars where her old life used to be. Then Michael came in, stood behind her, looked at the reflection, and smiled. He said, "You know, I think the fire just burned away everything that wasn't real. What's left is you, the most real person I've ever known." In that moment, Turia realized, beauty isn't what we see, it's what survives the fire. Today, Turia and Michael are married. They live in New South Wales, Australia, and have 2 sons. She's written books, delivered TED Talks, and become one of the world's most inspiring speakers. Her social media isn't about perfection, it's about real life, healing, and strength. Every scar tells a story, every smile is a rebellion against pain, and together they remind the world, you don't need perfect skin to be beautiful, you just need a heart that refuses to give up. If you're watching this, wondering what love really is, it's not the dates, the filters, or the flowers. It's the nights spent crying beside a hospital bed. It's the patience to help someone rebuild their life, brick by brick. It's staying when everyone else walks away. Turia lost her beauty in the fire, but found her truth in love. And Michael proved something the world had forgotten. Real love doesn't see scars, it heals them. So, if you ever ask, does true love still exist? Remember this story, because once upon a time in Australia, a man loved a woman who had lost everything, and together, they built something the flames could never touch.